Mike, Lorin, welcome back. Always great to have repeat guests along with us. Now, tonight we are talking about directing. When I first got into directing, Todd Fisher looked at me and said, "Okay, why in the world you want to do it? Because directing is a thankless job. You work really hard, but you don't get no praise, no credit for it. Why do you want to do it?" And me, I said because it kind of heightens, um, it kind of teaches me to heighten my level of collaborative nature that takes place in the theater, and it'll kind of teach me some responsibility. Now, starting with Ardencie ladies first. Ardencie,
Yes.
Jennifer, Lorin, and Mike. Why did y'all get into directing?
I got into directing because hmm, I one of the things I love about being a director is that it allows me to pursue many different art forms. And what do I mean by that? Theater, it encompasses painting, it encompasses dance, it encompasses writing. And I think as a director, it allows me to be able to utilize all of those facets about myself because I do those things. And in all honesty, I'm a tad bit of a control freak. So
I can be too. That's a Virgo in me.
hey, I'm a Sag, man. What can I have that bit? What can I say? There we go.
There you go.
It is what it
Jennifer,
is.
Jennifer, what about you?
That's a great question. I agree with collaboration. I love telling stories that are bigger than myself. I think that's what really captured my imagination about directing and being the nexus of all these different languages and conversations. I think what drew me to theater, and especially opera and music theater, is I love the encounter between the possible and the impossible. I think that allows us to challenge what our reality could be like. And I just find that such a poignant and exciting question.
Very nice. Lorin, what about you, brother?
Um, so my experience with directing is a little different. I'm somebody who used to do a good deal of it, a good deal of my own creation of work, and right now I've been an undergrad and I've been focusing more on the acting side of things, but my realization has been that as lovely as acting is and as important it is that there are actors, I'm realizing for people like myself, people of color, people uh, who are minorities generally, we don't have stories written for us. We don't have people who know how to tell those stories properly, who have the power, the agency to do so. So my kind of goal moving forward is, as I also pursue the acting, is getting back into writing, back into directing, back into creating experimental theater that talks about those things. Because nobody young is doing it. And I have a couple friends who are getting into it and starting to try to do that, but I'm realizing if I want stories that I can be a part of, I need to start writing them and putting them out there. So that's sort of how I'm approaching this conversation.
What about you, Mike?
Unmute myself. As the last one on the list, it's real easy to riff off of what everybody else has been talking about. And what I've heard a lot of is that we are storytellers. And that's, I think, what draws me in there with a strong, well-written show. I can see the story as I'm reading it. And I want to help tell that story and share it with an audience and work with the whole community, the actors, the set designers, the sound folks, the lighting people, in order to tell that story in the best way possible.
So when I first got into directing, this is what I did wrong. I did not study the source material. You see, Louis Panzer, who is a great writer, had this short play for the evening of short plays at the Drama Center here in Greensboro. The name of the play was Sport of Crowns. It was a takeoff of guess what it was a takeoff of.
Okay. What was the title again?
Sport of Crowns.
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones.
Bingos. Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
Now, guess how much Game of Thrones that I've ever watched.
None.
Exactly. but I should have in order to familiarize myself with the material. But that's one thing that's integral to being a very good director is knowing your source material.
Oh,
Would
yeah.
y'all agree?
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
Now let's rewind a little bit. I asked y'all what got y'all into directing. Introduce yourselves to the world. Again, ladies first, same order.
So I got, my name is Ardencie Hall-Karambe. I'm a native of Texas, but I live in Philadelphia, Houston area. I've been doing theater as long as I can remember. I luckily grew up in a town that had a strong theater program. And I have a bachelor BFA in acting. I have an MA in directing. I have a PhD in performance studies. I teach community college in Philly. I worked in New York City while I was in graduate school. And I love doing theater. I love every aspect of it. So that's brief.
Okay, Jennifer.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Williams. I am a director who specializes in opera and music theater, especially contemporary opera, site-specific opera and performance, and immersive opera and performance. Let's see, I actually got into directing via music, which is probably what drew me to that side of sort of this area discipline of the art form. Let's see, and when I'm not directing, I also research, let's say particularly German theater traditions as well, and contemporary opera as well.
Okay. Nice to meet both of y'all. Lorin?
So my name is Lorin Kaplan. I grew up in the Durham scene, mostly the experimental theater scene. So that's more what I know is independent and experimental theater. So like you were saying, like immersive performance, that's something I've done some work with. Currently a student at UNCG. I'm a senior this year in the BFA program. And moving forward, I'm hoping to do a little more writing, a little more directing, a little more creation again, manifesting theater rather than trying to find it, which is what I have been doing, and I'm finding isn't as fruitful.
You know, it's fun, Lorin, real quick. It's funny that you say that because the next gentleman has actually been doing some of that himself. Right, Mike?
To some extent, yeah. I guess I came up, everybody else is talking about the experiential pieces that they've been working on. My background's a lot more traditional. I found an outlet for myself in theater in high school and really was drawn to the art of it. But then I put it on the back burner for 20 some years and didn't really come back to it until I was in my late 30s, mostly as an actor at first. And then I started seeing stories being told that I thought could be told better, differently. And so I stepped up to do some one acts and then moving into full length pieces as I learned the craft of directing, mostly by experience. I've got an associate in fine arts and really appreciate the work that Ardencie is now doing with community colleges, because I think that's so important. And then I got my BS in communications just because it was more convenient than anything else. But along the way, I've been working in community and some semi-professional theater as an actor and a director. I've done some of the backstage work at different points. I'm not real good at it, but enough to know that when I'm working with these wonderful creative artists, how to express my vision and share it with them so that we can all move forward. And again, I fall back on this trope of telling stories, because basically that's what we do, whether it's the traditional theater, whether it's experiential theater, whether it's something new and avant-garde, or an old trope that's been brought back out, and trying to find new ways, new pieces of that to share with people.
Very nice. And if y'all don't know who I am, you may as well turn off the daggone live video.
Bye. Oh.
So I'll say that I had an interest in directing and writing ever since I first fell in love with theater. I guess when I fell in love with theater, I just fell in love with the whole thing. And as I've grown as a director, I started looking at teachers of theater who has systems that are more so identified with, and whom I most identify with. Y'all theater students, y'all write this down. Uta Hagen. Write this name down. Uta Hagen. Why Uta Hagen? Well, because, and I've used Uta Hagen's system a lot, because I believe that it's not, and I went in the theater like this, it's not, I'm going to get on stage and pretend to be another person. If you're on stage pretending, you need to clock yourself. No, it's not pretending. You are, whoever you are. Like, for instance, Adrian is either in the audience, at a basketball game, on a date, wherever. He's not on stage. Adrian's not on stage. The character's on stage. You are stepping into the skin of a human being. In order to prepare for that, you have, I say, do background work. Establish given circumstances. What did the character do? What did the character do prior to the scene? Why is the character doing during the scene? Why are they doing anything that they're doing in a particular piece? Ardencie.
Yes, sir.
What's your method of directing? What's your method of getting the getting things started?
Well, most of my work and my scholarship is and my training was based in Stanislavski, who Uta Hagen based a lot of her work off of. So I don't classify myself as a method director, but I utilize a lot of Stanislavski's methodologies in teaching students. So about given circumstances, I thoroughly believe in actors' homework. You have to understand that archetypal human being that the playwright has created, and being able to give a background story, being able to understand how they got to that place gives you a sense of understanding why they're doing what they're doing. Human beings do things because of, just because of larks, but something is driving us to do certain things. So it becomes important for the student to understand why the character is thinking the way they do. So in my class, I utilize a system that I called the actor's pyramid. And so we look at the physicalization of the character. We look at the mental, the psychodynamics of the character. We try to understand what's going on emotionally with the character, and how nature and nurture imply and play upon that. Because we are creatures of the environment in which we grow up in, and the environment in which we live. And we react to those things. And we try to make them as real as possible on stage. I totally agree that when you are on stage, you become somewhat, because if we look at the history of theater and acting, it comes out of the whole notion of ritual. And when Thespis steps out of, he was a priest, he steps out of that circle and becomes that actor. He took on that possession. He became possessed by the god that he was portraying at that time period. And so actors become possessed by the characters that they are playing at that time period. I tell people, if you come off stage and you remember what you did, then you weren't in the scene. You have to, it's not, you know what I'm saying? That world has to be real. For that 2 hours that you're walking across the boards, that is the reality. Everything else is outside of that. That time, that verisimilitude, becomes extremely important. So that's one of the things I try to home in as a professor and teaching students, and I do in my own company, getting people to understand, to be submersive into the work.
So while you had brought up Stanislavski, I was looking for my book that covers a lot of Stanislavski's teachings. And I'm not going to look for it because that would be extremely unprofessional and disserving to all of those who are watching this particular podcast. But I will say that I learned that Stanislavski, right? Stanislavski was like completely real. Like everything has to be 100% real. There is no. It's like Mike will tell you this, because me and Mike have worked together a lot of times. I have been cast in roles that were originally written for white men, right? According to Stanislavski, I couldn't have done that. But then Stanislavski came along with that magic if. You know, I was just bullcrapping with y'all. Go ahead, do what you can. Just go ahead and take advantage of that magic if. I'm like, really, man? Really, Constantine? Man, you tripped.
I think part of the thing about Stanislavski is you have to understand, he was an innovator. He didn't, realistic theater in the sense that we know it didn't exist during his time period. He was stabbing in the dark. These were new plays that were come out. When Chekhov and Ibsen were writing, they had never had plays where it was all about much more presentational before that. With him, with Stanislavski and with Chekhov and I say Ibsen, we become much more internalized. What is happening internally with the character? And so his methodology is stabbing in the dark at trying to find the best way to interpret these new types of characters that he was discovering in the work. So there's no telling, he was pulling things out of the air, and Magic If is one of those that he pulled down.
That's why Stanislavski did something that we all, as artists, directors, actors, all that should do. He took notes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on that note, Lorin, we're going to say here on the directorial path before we go into your operatic world, Jennifer. Lorin, what are some pieces that you directed, and how did you approach those directions?
Sure. Keep in mind, I am very much a student right now, especially with directing, which is something I'm having to return to. So I'm probably going to say things that are wrong. This is my experience. This is me talking about me doing my best. I just want to say that as somebody who's learning as much from this conversation that we're having, as well as like expressing my own understanding. But
you're probably going to say things that are right because you're coming from your experience, sir.
Right. I know for me, one of my favorite directing exercises I've ever done is nonsense scenes, and I've done a lot of those through, just academia, stuff like that, but also on my own as kind of an exercise where you're given totally no context clues, no information, no nothing. It's just random dialogue that could be interpreted one of maybe 1,000 different ways, and you have to tell your own story with it. And the reason I like that is it's something to build on. It gives you a freedom to sort of explore ideas you might not get to normally play with in a normal production setting, where you can have more creative agency with the story itself. I know for me, when I was younger, I know I used to lean more into the serious side of things. So I would take a piece that could have been about somebody stubbing their toe and try to make it a war scene. I was that kid. But
I've had you in class, dude.
Yeah. But I think also, in general, what I really like about directing is, for me personally, the when it comes together, when you do a scene the right way, or you have a world built the right way, and the actors actually really inhabit it and go for it, you get to see something come to life that you've seen in your head a million times. And I think that, for me, the reason I got into acting, the reason I got into writing, music even, I was obsessed with storytelling as a kid. I was affected by pretty much a bunch of movies, a bunch of theater. I grew up around a bunch of different artists. So it was really impressed upon me the importance of creation and the importance of storytelling. And I knew that was what I wanted to do. So I look at directing as probably the most creative and also probably the most stressful and anxiety-inducing position on the creative team, because you get to say, okay, here are all the different collaborators I want from all these different disciplines. You have to make it make sense. So it's really lovely, but it's horrifying. I say that as somebody who's one of my best friends and my roommate for 2.5 years, Ralph Jones, who you know, Adrienne. We lived together, so I learned a lot about directing actually from living with Ralph. There were a lot of things I didn't know as an actor that it gave me more perspective on both acting and directing, because I got to see sort of behind the curtain, especially working with them and doing shows with them and kind of, and sometimes even coming and consulting, helping direct, scenes and stuff like that. It taught me a lot, actually, to be with somebody who was so much more advanced and just be around that a lot. It made me really realize how much work, how much time, how much effort goes into being a good director,
Oh yeah, like, and you were right. Like, when I directed Time, when I directed Airbnb Butchery, I stressed so much that I'm surprised that I was able to lock my hair up. You know what I'm saying? I'm surprised it all didn't fall out. Now you came from the school of Ralph Jones, which is a great school. That man knows his theater. Me, me, I came from the school of, I took a directing class at Guilford College. Taking the play analysis class taught me how to like really break down the plays, like really channel my Virgo analytical side when it comes to theater. And then watching this man, Mike, watching him and how he directs, that helped give me an idea of how it goes. So Mike, what's the approach that you take into your directing?
Oh, that's a difficult question because it changes with each show.
You know what?
I have to look.
I did watch you direct. I did watch you direct Private Lives, and I watched you direct Ruin. Two completely different shows, two completely different styles. Sorry for cutting you off. Please go ahead.
Nope, not a problem. In fact, I was going to reference Ruined because, of course, I cast you in it, and it was a show I'd read about 5 or 6 years ago. If you're not familiar with it, please read it. It's a wonderful piece. It looks at the Civil War in Africa in the late 90s and its impact on a small village and the people there. And it talks a lot about the violence towards women during that time. It's not a comfortable show by any stretch, but it's very, very powerful. When I first read it, I knew I wanted to direct it, and I spent the next 5 or 6 years trying to find a company that would put it up and also let me direct, because I wanted to tell that story. And it was interesting dealing with a cast of all Black actors and trying to get them to realize that their experiences as a Black American had very little to do with telling the story of Black Africans, because the culture is so different. We spent a lot of time at table work trying to find references, trying to find similarities that we could work from and build. We had, as in most community theater, we had some very experienced actors, and we had some brand new actors. And trying to find the levels to bring all of that together was a extremely challenging and extremely rewarding experience in being able to tell this story about inhumanity, but the humanity at the kernel of what happens in people's lives. So, I mean, that one I approached differently because, as I said, the story was different. In doing Private Lives, which is an old chestnut from Noel Coward, who wrote back in the 30s, I think, maybe even the 20s, looking at upper crust European society that really doesn't exist anymore, but trying to tell the story in a way that related to people in the 2000s to 2010s. And I approached the actors differently. We approached the storytelling process differently. But the key to it all, I think, was finding, again, the humanity in this flippant world of Private Lives as the same way we tried to find the humanity in the horrible, violence-ridden world of Ruined.
Finding the humanity, and I'm actually experiencing a little bit of what you've experienced with Ruin myself right now for Aprenda Espanol, my next play that I'm putting up on November 6th, Zoom and YouTube Live. Shameless plug right there. I have cast a cast filled with, there are 4 Black people in the cast, but everybody else is Hispanic. Cast of like 7, 8, but 4 black people, me being one of them. Everybody else is Hispanic. And I'm like, okay, how can I learn about this culture? How can I respect this culture? And how can I help, help this culture tell stories and whatnot and leave a meaningful mark for my culture, their culture, and the theater culture at large, right? And I'm like, hey, anybody who does their homework and stuff and decides to step out of their culture into another culture and direct a story based around that culture, I say, hey, if you did your homework, kudos. Now, I think opera. Yeah, that was just a random jump there, right? Wasn't it? I recently talked to a cast member, and she mentioned directing a musical in Argentina once, right? So anybody who directs a musical or some type of musical form of theater, I'm like, power to you. Well, I think opera. I think Les Mis. I think Phantom of the Opera. And I think God bless anybody who is that emotional show. Jennifer, please share your experiences with us.
Well, I had a kind of funny point of entry into opera. I wasn't really exposed to opera when I was younger. I was exposed to musicals a lot, and that was kind of my path. I knew I wanted to be a musical theater storyteller of some kind. So I thought, I direct musicals. I actually wanted nothing to do with opera for a long time and avoided it like the plague. It just has a lot of really negative baggage, right? And very few people really feel comfortable at an opera house, in an opera. Everything about it is really alienating. But it wasn't until I was actually in a rehearsal with a contract where I'm paid as an assistant director to be there, so I had to be there. What captured my imagination is during a sing through, which is the equivalent of a read through, it was in Dido-Aeneas, and the baritone sang the word "ah" in the middle of a sentence twice. And what was extraordinary about it is that in that single word, which in and of itself means nothing, the music packed these multiple layers of meaning all at once. It was astonishing, and it just endlessly captured my imagination of, what does it mean to tell a story in an instant with multiple layers? And that's what I really wanted to pursue. Since then, traditional opera has never really been a good fit for me. I'm someone who's really passionate about acting and storytelling. And so I've spent a lot of my career dismantling operas, actually, and finding, ways for them to be more accessible, because I understand audience members who don't want to go to them. But I want to tap into that really exciting kernel and make that accessible to everyone, so everyone can have that experience that I have. So I put opera in conversation with site-specific performance and more recently immersive theater too, because just having singing right up close is just such an exciting thing. I'm not a singer at all. No one ever wants to hear that, not even happy birthday from me. I'm terrible. So to me, I think singing is extraordinary, and I want other people to experience that too. So let's see, most recently, one of the projects I directed, it wasn't an opera at all. I took these art songs that are usually performed in concert called the 4 Last Songs. And they're about this woman who's embracing death and is actually coming to terms with death, which I found to be really beautiful. And so I staged it in this white box studio in New York called the Alchemical as a ritual that involved the whole audience. So the soprano memorized it, didn't perform it as a concert, but instead it was like a theater piece where she would, find a letter somewhere in the audience at the beginning of a song that had the English translation of what she was about to sing. And she would read that and perform that, hand it to an audience member, and then begin this song and interact with specific people. And at one point, for example, everyone in the audience had these balloons on their chairs. And there was one song about a garden fading at the end of spring. And so when she tossed her balloon in the air, she invited the whole audience to toss their green balloons in the air too. And so this white box came, this sort of bouncing box of all these balloons, green balloons going everywhere. And so they were submerged in these sort of wilting petals and nice. Wilting. It was really fun. And I think, it was like this very exciting, visceral experience that everyone was a part of and had buy-in.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what a lot of performances is missing. I think that buy-in from audience and involvement and personal, visceral experience.
It's hard to do that when you're quarantined. Darn you, Rona. But you know what? You got me thinking. You got me thinking. What if somebody African did something like that? Because in African spirituality, we celebrate our ancestors. You know what I'm saying? And what? Dang, I'm getting this idea. Let me just stop for someone to steal it.
I probably have already done
I'm taking notes.
I probably have already done it, brother.
I am actually taking notes, but I won't take notes of your ideas. I don't want to steal anything you came up with. Although 30 years down the road, I probably will direct something that invariably has it thrown in there because that's how all art is. But
there you go, man. Plan for the future.
I will say that right now the production that my company is doing is called All Live. I do theater, but I'm also a musical person. My venue and my first step into theater was through musical theater. I'm a singer, and so I direct and I write musicals as well. So we involve musical African spirituality in a lot of our shows. I can't help myself. It's part of my DNA. It's like, so I have a tendency to utilize in some cases. One of the shows I did, Liz Estrada, many of you may know Liz Estrada. And so I took Liz Estrada and I turned it to Liz Estrada, Cross Your Legs, Sister. It became a musical, and utilizing music from musical influences from the 1960s, particularly Motown and the British invasion. So I have a tendency to want to find ways to bring classical work to audiences that might not see it, and so I will mix genres in that sense. But I will also, in the show we're doing right now, which is called All Lives Don't Matter, we are connecting it to the ancestors through the ritual of libation pouring, through African dance, through many different ways, drumming, a whole bunch of different ways to tell the story of what it means to be African American in this time period in this country. So
maybe you need to create something together, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'll get you a bus ticket, bro.
I can tell you, when I went to Philadelphia the first time, I loved it. Wilma Theater, all of that. The University of the Arts. Oh, I didn't want to leave. I didn't even hit the Rocky Steps because it was raining. I'm sorry I'm so loud, but you know how bad I wanted to go with the Rocky Steps and scream out, Adrian! And then say, what?
Well, come. You have an open invitation. You're more than welcome to come.
Thank you. Like
You're
I
welcome.
said, we need to chop it up. We need to chop it up. But let me say focus. But now I have a question. Now here's a new topic. Here's a topic that I would like to discuss with you all. Cause I'm learning as a relatively new director. See, in theater, when we're directing and stuff, it's not necessarily I tell you what to do and you best do it, or else I'm going to kick your hind parts out the show. It's more so, we are a family like a giant tree, right?
Right?
yeah.
Yeah.
We are coming together. We are coming together to form a beautiful unit.
Mm-hmm.
However, you have that in some theater circles, you have that daggone diva. The David Ruffin, Bobby Brown, Eddie King Jr. of the bunch, who's feeling themselves all too much and want to present a problem. I've had an actor excuse me, I've had an actor quit on me before. In the middle of rehearsal. Yeah. How could someone quit? Mike, how could someone quit on such an angelic individual like myself?
Adrian, I'm not even going to touch that line. You and I've been there before.
I've had an actor get drunk and hungover and miss rehearsal 2 weeks before the show. That has happened. Now with Sport of Crowns, this is no one's fault. With Sport of Crowns, this is no one's fault, but everybody involved with Sport of Crowns, the writer, the actor, the lead actor, the substitute actor, the actor, even the youngest, she was a teenager. Everybody got sick except for me. I didn't get sick. My point is how, my fellow directors, how do we handle that difficult David Ruffin, Bobby Brown, Eddie Kane Jr. actor whose head is freaking huge and you have trouble sustaining it?
I guess you start with hoping that people give enough of a shit to be professional, come in and go home. I know. I was just saying, you kind of hope that people would give enough of a shit to be professional, come and do their work and go home, and not make it a mess. I know for me personally, both as an actor and in directing moments, I've had to take people aside and talk to them and be like, hey, that's not okay to do. That's super disrespectful. You're not only being unprofessional, you're being a shitty person. And if you keep doing it, they're going to get rid of you. You got to stop. I've also been on the other end of that. I've had periods where I didn't have my shit together and I had older actors or directors pull me aside and tell me, get your shit together. We're not playing a game here. We have work to do. But I think the biggest thing you can start to try to do with that person is just level with them and wake them the fuck up. And if you can't wake them up, or if they're too stuck in their bullshit, I think unfortunately it is smart sometimes to get rid of them as quickly as possible and just get somebody else to do it, because there's 20 other people who want to do the same thing they were going to do. No matter how brilliant they were, if they don't want to be in the room, fuck them. Get somebody better who gives a shit, you know? I'd rather have somebody who'd never acted before but who wanted to do it more than anything than a guy who's acted his entire life who just doesn't give a shit about what he's doing.
Okay, so of the four of y'all, I take it that Lorin and Ardencie are kind of like the no nonsense. I'm about ready. I will go upside your head if you get my parasite type. And I want to know how Jennifer, how would you handle it?
Well, let's see. I work in the discipline that invented the word diva. So this is a very, it is not an unfamiliar problem. I encounter most frequently in site-specific performance, actually, because especially for a lot of classically trained singers, they're not accustomed to being in a non-traditional venue, especially a space that's usually not where performance happens at all. And oftentimes people don't know what they need until they don't have it. And I think a lot of meltdowns, as it were, can happen when people feel like they're in kind of a foreign space and they don't have their usual safety nets. I have a working theory that, others might disagree with, but I feel like there is a critical window of opportunity for a director to build that bridge with this individual at the outset of your work together in rehearsals, because it kind of comes down to trust and whether they feel like they can come to you with concerns and anxieties early on, or if you're going to be an obstacle to them. Let's see. And so I feel like, just that interpersonal relationship, building that early on is really important. And just I think watching my delivery of directions and building relationships within that can be, that's kind of critical. I think my most difficult experience, I was doing, challenging experience, I was doing, directing a site-specific production of La Boheme in Washington, D.C.'s Eastern Market, the North Hall, which is a 19th century market that's still in use today. So it's the same period. I kind of spoke to the Act Two famous market scene, but I set each scene, the composer calls each act a picture, which is kind of beautiful. It is a different installation at a different point of the hall. And so the audience would pick up their chairs and travel to a different corner for the beginning of each act. And so with the orchestra, actually, so the whole thing was this mobile experience. And that was very, very new for the performers. So I had one particular performer during the dress rehearsal actually locked herself in a supply closet and refused to come out. I know, yeah, I think she was just really upset. But I think, that's...
Eddie King.
Yeah, that was really hard.
Okay, so Mike, you being the gentle giant that you are, I don't know if you came across this situation before, but have you? And if you did, how'd you handle it?
Well, both as an actor and a director, I've seen it. Having had it occur as an actor and watching a director replace a person, even as close as 2 weeks out from opening, the reason that they got pulled was weighing down the rest of the company so much that when the director made the step and brought someone else in, it lifted everyone in order to try and tell that story better, because we didn't have to deal with the garbage. I mean, from a director's side, the flip answer is don't cast them, but that's assuming you know the person or can see that during the audition process. Doing most of my work in community theater, you start to know the people, who are going to give you a problem and who you're going to have to work with in order to bring the best performance out. But I think as the director, and I think Jennifer mentioned this early on, you have so many different things that you have to do and have to make decisions on, that's one of them. And if you see someone who's pulling the storytelling, and we got to go back to storytelling, who's pulling that down, not allowing the rest of the group to express the story and share it with an audience, you've got to get rid of them. And it's hard to do, but as Lorin said, nobody's irreplaceable. There are 20 other people out there who want to do this and who can come in with 2 weeks left and bring the show up so much further than the idiot who you have to get rid of. So you just forthright. I mean, everybody said you talk with them a little bit privately. If you have to call them out in public, I hate to do that, but sometimes that's the step that will get them onto the right path. And if those things don't work, find someone else.
And I just want to say, can be prepared in 2 weeks. Yeah. So Lorin and Mike, y'all both saw my play Time. That was the best night of my entire life. The young lady who sold the show, Miss Letitia Hines, she came in at the last minute, right? She was off book, memorized all them lines in 2 days.
Holy shit.
Yeah. 2 days. 4 days. 2 days. I'm gonna show y'all black side. 2 days. So yes, nobody's irreplaceable. And I'm pretty sure, Miss Ardencie, you would tell that to anyone who was acting up, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I had to laugh because I know my company members are laughing their heads off because I will drop you a week before. I have no qualms because I believe you are suffocating the show. You're not allowing it to live. Each show to me is a baby. I go through the process of pregnancy. When I choose a show, I digest it. It becomes part of me. I go through all the pains of pregnancy. I tell my students, I tell my actors, that I'm in the 5th month. This is where we are. The baby right now is feeling this. And here comes the theater fairy, which is like the pediatrician to come in and help us get everything together in the last minute. And you're not going to strangle my baby.
You know what?
You're not going to do that. I'm not going to. Before you say something, bro.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I got the handle of diva when I was an undergrad.
Oh, do tell.
A friend of mine in undergrad, he just said, he goes, "You're a diva." And people started calling me diva ever since. And I don't consider myself a diva. I don't think I act like a diva, because I think in most cases, a true diva never gives themselves the title of diva. It's usually given by other people, because I think, and Jennifer can correct me as I'm wrong, but I don't think I am, which is a diva quality. But anyway, that it's usually about the sense of aiming for perfection. I know the story. I know what I see. I know what I'm looking for as the director. You're not in my head. You can't tell me. I'm telling you this, and I'm hoping I'm giving you enough elements through the visual that I'm giving you, the conversations that we're having at the table, those discussions that I'm giving you enough that the story that I see here is being translated to you, and then you as the performer or the designer or whoever's working with me can then take that and put my story on stage. And so I don't consider, I'm not an oppressive director in that sense. I try to leave, I'm very liberal in the sense I let the actors and the designers have a lot of space, but they still have to play on my playground.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is still my playground. All right, and so I will give you as much space as possible to create. When you start to misuse my playground, then we gonna have a conversation.
Oh yeah.
You know, and I will talk to you once. I will warn you a couple of times. I will give you hints. Now, when I finally stop talking, that's when there's a problem. And so usually at that point, I'm ready to say goodbye to somebody, and I will have somebody. I mean, I'm thinking of a particular show I was doing, and this young man, woo-wee, he tried to show his ass. So, I had to bring somebody, and this was literally a week before we opened. Brought somebody in there, had them sit and watch the rehearsal, and he was gone. By that young man, I met him at the door. "Thank you. Your services are no longer needed." And I turned around and went right back into rehearsal. And I was done. I mean, and it's usually to get me to that point, you have pushed me into a corner. You're strangling my baby, and you're not giving it the space it needs to grow to live, and nobody can do that. No, that's not your place.
So we can all agree that, I like that baby analogy you're using. So we can all agree that when you wonder what are the equivalent to birth pains, birth pains and all that, Tech Week, right?
Woo!
Right, Mike?
Right.
Tech
Yes.
Week. Just having to just hammer and push and give it in. Well, then again, I'll never get pregnant, thank God. So I don't know what that's like. So what are like dream pieces for you all? I will start with mine. Me, I want to direct a musical. I want that experience of directing a musical. What is it like to say, okay, you sing like this, you sing over here, you dance like this, all that good stuff? What would that be like? And also, what would I like to direct besides a musical? I know it's an August Wilson piece. I'll have to mull that over and get back to y'all. Lorin, what's your dream directorial job?
Oh, man, there's so many. I'm a dabbler. I like playing with different things. So there's a billion different things I would love to do.
Top 5.
Okay, that makes it a lot easier. Thank you. Yeah, I was going to try to keep it short too because I knew it would go on for a while, but I like to direct a self-written piece, sort of about the dynamics of being sort of a person of color where I'm from, being from Durham, and sort of some of the things I experienced there and noticed. I want to, I definitely want to direct more immersive theater, more experimental theater. I really like found place built shows because you literally put the audience in a new world. There are no rules, which means actors can do crazy wild shit they never get to do. You can do stuff environmentally you would never get to do on just a proscenium stage. The idea of directing something like that, putting it together, putting all the pieces together, and seeing if what you constructed really creates a different world that people can walk into and just experience really excites me. Um, uh, I'm also really interested in theater that makes people uncomfortable. So, because I think that's important. I think sometimes it's nice to go to the theater and experience something we really like. Sometimes it's good to go and experience something new. So I think one thing I'd want to play with a lot of the immersive stuff is kind of that line between discomfort and horror and sort of what that would do to the audience, how that could manifest. I also, there's a play I really enjoy called The Flick. I used to work at a movie theater, so for me, I just relate to a lot of those characters. It's a good slice of life play that's about really mundane people going through really real shit. And I also think that's important to talk about as well. So that's kind of my list right now, but I'm sure it'll grow the more I get into this.
Oh yeah, man, you're 21, man. Sure, it's going to grow and grow.
You're a baby.
You are 21, right?
Yes, I am.
That's right. See, I'm not the youngest one up in here.
Baby.
I'm 35. Miss Ardencie,
Yes, sir.
what,
Yes, sir.
what's your
You
dream?
you can just call me Doc. Most people call me Doc.
Doc, thank you.
You're welcome.
I was just struggling with your name. I'm sorry.
It's all right, bro.
Miss Doctor Ma'am, what's your favorite? What's your dream show?
Oh my. I can't particularly say that I have a dream show per se. Because if I want to direct it, and I will try my best to direct it. So I don't see there being a limitation on stopping me from directing something that I would want to, except for royalties. But 9 times out of 10, if I want to direct something, I will either try to do it on campus, or I will do it with my own company. So I don't see that. But I love, as I mentioned before, one of the things I hope to do in the near future, I have this, I really want to play around with Macbeth. And I see some...
She said the M word.
I did. Luckily, I'm not in a theater space, so I'm okay. I'm in my office. So, but yeah, I love the Bard. I love Shakespeare. And so I love taking his pieces and trying to find new ways to tell those stories. Once again, tell those stories so that I think people are afraid of Shakespeare as they are with opera. You know what I'm saying? Because they don't understand the medium. They don't both of them are foreign languages to them. And I think a lot of times in both cases, it's because people haven't taken the time to really learn to read them. So part of my job, I think, as a scholar, I thought one of the things I've always wanted to do was how could I bring these scholarly notions to the people that I grew up with, the people that who need to hear these stories, the people who would want to be part of these stories, but it feels too lofty for them. So I always want to find ways to bring these kind of big ideas and ideas of universality and humanity that we find in a lot of the classic stuff to people who they're really talking about, because Shakespeare was talking about my people. They may not have had the same skin tone, but he was talking about humanity in general. And so, and I think a lot of times people are are set back because they don't understand the story, and learning to find ways to bring those stories to them, I think is part of my mission as a director. So I like playing with Shakespeare. I mentioned Liz Estrada. I love opera. I love finding these stories that I can somehow transform and bring to the community in which I do theater. So
Mike will tell you my journey with Shakespeare.
It's been rocky. But you have, I won't say you've mastered the art form, because I don't think anyone ever masters Shakespeare, but you've come a long, long way and really do some good stuff with the Shakespeare pieces I've seen you in.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. You know, one of the guests that we'll have next week, Miss Carmen Deese. She was the Hippolyta to my Theseus, in which, according to Stanislavski, I wouldn't have been able to play that either. Dang, Constantine. Anyway, she was the Hippolyta to my Theseus. If I didn't have her drag me when we were dancing and stuff, A Midsummer Night's Dream probably would have been a mid-afternoon's nightmare for me. So, Jennifer, what's some dream pieces for you?
Oh, that's such a great question. You know, that's kind of what I've been thinking about lately, just sort of
Don't touch like
here
that.
in Brooklyn. Oh man, that's one of my favorite. But actually, you know what I would love to do? I would love to devise more, actually. I want to play more with linear narratives, because devised storytelling isn't something that opera really taps into yet. And I think there's a lot there. The last work that I did, it wasn't devised, but it was kind of in a similar vein and parallel methodology. So I directed this Rigoletto, which is a story about this very wealthy duke who is a predator, and uses his power and advantage to seduce women. Seduce is a polite word. And so it's basically about that kind of power dynamic. So it took place, it was site specific, in the Box in New York, which is this notorious nightclub. Like, it's nuts. And it was immersive piece. So, you know, part of it took place in this, it's this old jewel box theater, and that was like a speakeasy. Like this, I was setting it in, you know, mafia New York, you know, kind of old gangster New York. And then the front was a pizza parlor. Profession as a pizza parlor. But during the intermission beforehand, I splintered the characters all over the two-story theater, and had these installations, these little micro installations that were thematically tied to the story. So people had these up close and personal little experiences with the characters that unpacked the thematic material of the story. And that was so interesting to me, just to have this kind of the story less a narrative, this linear thing, and more of a narrative that's both physically and conceptually, more of a network, like a web. And that was really interesting to me. I'd love to do more storytelling like that.
nice.
Nice, very nice, very nice. I think I might figure out what I want to do, and I will announce it to you all in the world after we get Mike's dream piece. Which then again, Mike, your dream piece was ruined. So what is it?
For a long while, and I was able to meet that with a wonderful cast, and it didn't have the audience I thought it deserved, but these things happen. We still told a darn good story, and a very emotional one.
Thank you.
I was very pleased with how it came out. Yes, and you did a wonderful job as well. I've been doing, just to try and scratch my theater itch during this days of COVID, I've been working with a group of folks, and Adrian, you've been a part of it a few weeks. We do a weekly Shakespeare reading. It's not formal, it's very casual, and we basically have fun with it. But it's really given all of us a chance to see pieces that we know of by name, but have maybe not seen, not read all the way through. And I'd really like to try my hand at directing a piece of that. My background in Shakespeare was sort of like what you said, Ardencie, I was scared of it. The language was too high, it's too formal, it's, oh my God, it's the bard. I don't want anything to do with it. And Adrian and I were taking an acting class together, and the instructor was a big Shakespeare buff. In fact, he came up to Philadelphia and did one of the pieces there a few years back. and really broke it down for us, starting from the basic, what is the language form that he's using. Let's take a look at how it works in short pieces. Let's do a monologue, let's do a dialogue, and then let's look at larger pieces. And I've been able to experience a handful of shows since then. I'd really love a chance to dig in and direct one. Unlike Adrian, I've done a few musicals. I'm not a singer by any stretch, but I like what music and choreography can add to the storytelling. I've been both blessed and cursed in doing them. Some I didn't have a music director until way late in the game, and we really had to plow through that. Others, I had some really strong choreographers and music directors that allow me to tell the story, blending that together with the acting pieces. So I wouldn't mind taking on another one of those again. And if I can, Adrian, sort of take away your leadership role for just a moment, I want to speak to each of the directors here and everybody who's listening. One of the things, and I ran into this with Ruined, that I strongly urge, if you don't incorporate this in your pieces, please look for ways to do this. All of you are familiar with fight choreographers and the work that they do and how they add to a piece. There's a growing movement in theater now to have intimacy coordinators. As directors, sometimes I know I have failed. I said, well, just go ahead and kiss, or whatever the scene called for, without really walking it through the actors. And that was my fault. We have a local person here who's done some training in it, and we brought her in for Ruined, which is dealing with some physical molestation of women on stage, talking about some very, very horrid violence towards women in the past, and just sort of bringing it up in the conversations. And her work with us, I felt, really moved the storytelling of the show along, and I want to make sure that I incorporate that in any time where you've got physical interaction with people, because there's no sense just assuming that your actors know how to do it, or that you can say, well, do it this way, and go on. But to explore that, because that's a strong, strong piece of the storytelling. And in the short time that I've been exposed to that over the last couple of years, I've really tried to be proselytize about it, so that anybody who's working in theater is aware of this and starts to take advantage of it. Because just like a fight choreographer, it adds so much to the piece. Now I'll get off my soapbox and turn this back over to you.
Yeah, it's all right, because it's very important. It's very important to know, because I've had to have intimate moments. You were there for 3 of them, actually, Mike. Daggone, what the heck? I've had intimate moments on stage, and each time I established an understanding with my intimate moment partner and her husband or boyfriend. So I kind of like did some version of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't like stage intimacy and stuff, because Adrian, the person, is a bit of a player. You know, that player beat. Anyway, moving on. So my dream piece would be whatever it is me and Doc there is going to come up with when I come up to Philadelphia and we chat.
Yes. Yes.
Or if she happens to find her way down North Carolina, whichever happens.
Either one.
But and I I would really like to direct a Broadway musical, cause Broadway musicals are great. Which when I walked away when I was in New York, I walked around Broadway. I saw Phantom of the Opera, which has been up there since creation. It's like God said, "Let there be light." Then Phantom of the Opera started.
Cats too, yeah.
Oh God, they're both written by the same guy.
Exactly.
Oh.
Yeah, well, you know what? Both of them, better than both of them. It's called Jesus Christ Superstar.
He wrote that one too. Yeah.
Damn.
You can't deny Andrew Lloyd Webber's, man.
He's been around for a minute.
You can't deny it.
And you know what? It's crazy when Stephen Schultz banned his work from North Carolina. I was like, but you know, I've already did one Stephen Schultz work, Godspell. And I'm about to do another Stephen Schultz work, and I'm currently in a Stephen Schultz work working. So I'm like, how you like that, Stephen Schultz? But I get why I get why he kept that in North Carolina during that time. Let's see. But you know, while we're talking about music, so Jennifer's a singer.
Nope. Not a singer.
What? Oh, you
I'm
said
not a singer. No, I was a violist first, and then after I was then a composer, and then a director. I fell in love with directing. I never sang.
So you know how to put the music. You know how to put it together. Doc is a singer. Lorin got bars. For those of you who are watching this and you are in a hip hop circle, when I say someone has bars, that means that they can rap very, very, very well. Just letting you know that. Now, Lorin got bars. Lorin, can you sing?
So I used to be classically vocally trained, and then I got to a point where I got really disillusioned about musical theater, and I just decided, you know what, this isn't going to be my thing. So I stopped. I used to be able to sing. Although I grew up a musician as much as a theater artist. In fact, they were both neck and neck for a while, and I kind of had to choose one. But I've been playing cello for like 6-7 years now. I can play the upright bass. I play piano. I've been playing that since I was 5. Doom Beck, trying to think a little bit of melodica. So music is very integral to who I am. I live in music, and it's a huge part of what I bring to my acting, directing, writing, whatever.
Just for that, when I put my musical up, I'm casting you. How you like them apples?
All right, I'm down.
When me and Doc get our musical up, we're casting you. How you like that?
All right, I'm down. I'm ready. I love Philadelphia. I'll go up there too. I got some family up there. So.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Road trip. Now, someone else who's familiar with Philadelphia, Mike. Mike just gave the lie that he cannot sing. Mike.
I don't sing well. I can sell a song a lot better than I can sing it. And in fact, I had probably my best audience response doing a musical. I was in Heather's the musical, and in the midst of a song called I Love My Dead Gay Son, I had to reach out and kiss the other man who was there on stage with me. And we had staged it without any intimacy coordinators, that we would kiss or hug, kiss, and then I'd reach behind and grab his butt. And it got the best audience response that I've had in 30 years of theater. So I figured I probably should have started doing that sooner. But it was a lot of fun to do. And he carried me as far as singing, thank goodness. But I also do understand the strength that music can bring to a show, where it can tell truths too true to be real, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, and love directing a well-written musical and seeing the impact it has on an audience.
You forget that I was just like 2 inches away from you when you were saying, "Here's to my wife to be."
There was that time, yes.
I mean, hey, you did a daggone good job. What do I know? I'm just hosting a podcast and whatnot. What do I know? But yeah, I think you did pretty well. And shoot, dang, what the heck? Fiddler on the Roof. Sheesh.
With Fiddler. Well, Laser Wolf, I've kind of got the beard for it, so it works.
I just had a 35-year-old moment. My bad, y'all.
Oh no.
Lorin, Jennifer, this is what happens when you hit 35.
Past 35, but thank you.
By the way, Jennifer, I just want to say there's a reason I knew I liked you, because you were a viola player and I'm a cellist, and
yes,
those two sections always have their shit together and always wait on the violins to get it figured out.
every
Exactly.
time.
Wanting
True
to kill the
story.
violinist, yes.
And I do
I
love
love violinists, but holy shit.
Yeah, they're the
It's a whole
divas
nother
of the string
Yeah.
family.
They're either amazing or they're terrible. It's just, you never get somebody who's mediocre at violin.
so what y'all are showing is the most proficient, the most talented, the most cultured, the most knowledgeable directors can cover basically any part, any side of the show. You know what I'm saying? Like a true director is a casting director. They look at the people who are auditioning. They're like, hey, I'll take that one, I'll take that one, I'll take that one. And if the actor needs coaching or help on whatever, you know, the director could say, okay, here's how you play a cello. This is how you play a cello in a show. Or this is how you can, you know, rap a little bit in a show. This is how you can, here's how you can talk with a Philadelphian accent in a show. That's what the director does. The director assists in character development. The director stretches the actor to a place where they don't think they could go. Like,
And I don't think that's just for the actor. I think a good director stretches their crew as well. They stretch the artistry of anyone that's working with them. You want people to, you know, the word director has its roots in the word teacher. And so the idea that the director is I often say the director is the head of the snake. And because it leads the rest of the body where it's supposed to go. And so a good director is going to get you to look at things as an artist that you might not have ever looked at before, and hopefully point you in the right direction, so that, because that's our job, so that you understand the story without me having to knock you over the head. That allows your artistry to bloom. You know what I'm saying? So to me, that's one of the primary things I want to push. I want to push my tech designers. I want to push my actors. I want to push even the front of the house. How can we make this better so that when the audience comes in, that they feel that they are submersive in the piece, that everything is seamless as much as possible when they come into the house.
And you know, Stanislavski operated that way. He did not. The fourth wall was basically non-existent to him. He wanted the audience to not feel like they were watching a show. They wanted to feel like they were a part of life happening.
Mm-hmm.
And to some effect, I believe that that's the best theater. Yet other times, I don't know. If I'm in an audience, if I'm in a New York or Philadelphia non-COVID, non-social distance audience on a Friday night, and I'm on a date and stuff, I want to just sit back and watch the show. I'm like, yo, I pay my $30 to see a show. I don't want to be part of it.
Mm.
I don't know how, and I'm gonna be totally. I don't know how an audience member cannot be part of it. Because the whole idea of performance is there has to be somebody they're watching and witnessing, and so the audience, that exchange of emotion, it's electrifying. That's one of the things I think we miss so much about live theater in this COVID moment, is that exchange of energy. And so as an actor, when I am giving my best on stage, the audience is going to feel it, and we're going to hear the laughter, or we're going to hear the awe, or we're going to hear the tears. And so the audience goes through it just as much as sitting in their seats as we do going through it on stage. That's the whole notion of catharsis. You know what I'm saying? We're all going through this emotional purge together. So I don't know how you can, as an audience member, sit there and say, oh, I don't want to, I just want to sit and watch. You know what I'm saying? I guess there is, to a certain extent, a voyeuristic nature to it, but I'm also, you know, if I'm just sitting there and I see all the strings and I'm not being entertained and I'm not emotionally connected to what's going on stage, I'm the loud one saying, excuse me, let me get the fuck on out. Pardon my French, but I got to go because I have better things to do with my time. And so, and it's like, I want that visceral experience that the actor is going through. As a director, I try to, in my work, to give people that visceral experience. If I want you to cry in this scene, I need to be able to make myself cry. As I'm going through this process, I have to put those elements, I have to be able to tell that story so we can get to that point, because that's where the scene is supposed to be emotionally. And so I want the audience to, and you know, it's, to me, it's just immersive though. The whole idea is not just sitting there and, have you ever heard of Bertolt Brecht?
Yeah.
Virtual who?
Bertolt Brecht.
I haven't.
Okay, Bertolt Brecht was kind of the antithesis of Stanislavski, you know, and so Bertolt Brecht believed that the audience should never, to a certain extent, should never be totally immersed into the play, because Bertolt Brecht was a political director. He was directing during the time of Nazi Germany. He was a contemporary of Adolf Hitler. He and actually, I love telling this story. Both of them were up for the same job as the artistic director of the German National Theater at the time, but the job went to Bertolt Brecht instead of Adolf Hitler. And so, and Bertolt Brecht spent his time as Hitler was rising in power, writing plays that were anti-Nazi. And so much so he ended up having to leave Germany during that time period, because Hitler hated him so much. But Bertolt Brecht understood that the power of theater was not just telling stories to where people became passive. You know, Aristotle says theater is to teach and delight. It's to teach and delight. So you're there to learn something. You're there to understand something better. And so Bertolt Brecht took that to the extreme. And so in a show like Caucasian Chalk Circle, Mother Courage and her children, he would literally put songs in there that had really no connection to the play or even the Three Penny Opera, but they pulled the audience out, and they were often very political and talked about the situation that was going on, so that he wanted the audience to walk out of there and be able to want to change the world. And I think that's what theater is supposed to do. It wants us, you know, Greek citizens were required to go to the theater. It was the citizens' job to go to just as it is to vote, it was their job to go and watch, because they believed that to be a better citizen, you have to be able to understand people and understand what's going on in plays. Allows us to see worlds that we may not get to see and experience things that we can therefore go back and put into the world. So theater has that power, and just to sit there and be placid is not our job as audience, to make the audience just as artists, to make the audience just sit there and go, oh, that was a lovely story. No. I want you to walk out of the theater thinking. Even if you're humming a song as you walk out, I still want you thinking about what you saw on stage and how it was impactful, and how the next time you might find yourself in a situation similar, you have another way. I'm sorry to go on. I can talk all day. But,
Okay.
you know, in teaching, I taught middle school students for a while. And I use the techniques of Auguste Boal, who was a theater practitioner in Brazil. And he came up with the idea of theater of the oppressed, which went along with Ferrer's education of the oppressed. And the idea that I would let the students, we would write scenarios that the students might encounter in their lives. Because a lot of times we don't know, depending upon upbringing and so on and so forth, we don't have the mechanisms to defuse or deactivate high level anxiety situations. And I think theater gives people those avenues, different ways to think about what if, instead of reacting this way, being knee-jerked, how can I, you know, do it in another way that diffuses the situation and everybody walks away. And I'm reminded of a student of mine. We had done some work in class, and he came in one day and he was late to class, and I was like, why are you late? He was like, well, I had this problem at the store coming, and I thought about what we did. The man accused me of stealing something. And instead of screaming at the store clerk and all this other kind of stuff, I told him, no, look, here's my, and dude, this is what, and he explained it to the guy, and the guy let him go and didn't call the police. He had another way. He didn't become agitated because he thought, oh, I can handle this because I saw this over here. I saw this character acting this way in a similar situation. And now I have the tools by which to deal with this in my own life. And I think that's one of the power of theater. And so I'd go around that story. But anyway.
I agree very much, Ardencie. I think film is a wonderful medium, and it can really tell some interesting stories. And you've certainly got different ways to tell that story by film than you do on a stage. But the impact of an audience seeing real people doing things
Indeed.
on stage, I think is so powerful. I mean, the old meme that floats around, and TV is crap, film is art, theater is life. And when you're seeing a person 30, 50, 100 feet from you doing, interacting, and accomplishing things, I think that carries a much more powerful message than flipping on the TV and watching some yahoo in a sitcom.
I will say that there have been times when I was performing in a play. I would say on my side of the fourth wall, I'm like, you know, I'm in the flow and stuff. But once I say something funny, or once I say something, and the audience reacts, just pause. You know, just pause. I'm still in the world of the play, but I'm pausing because the fourth wall has been tampered with, and laughter is taking place. And then once it ends, I'm going. Now, as we start to wrap this up, what does the future hold for you all? Jennifer, you first. Dang, why are you looking to the left? Why are you looking to the right like that?
Sorry. Oh, that's just where the camera is on my little tablet here. Let's see. I have a lot of I don't have a lot of things anymore, but my future is all about immersive theater, actually, and maybe a little devised work. But I'm doing a lot less linear narratives and traditional canonical repertoire, and more, you know, distilling stories to their essence.
Okay, very nice.
So like playing with the experience, I think, you know, we brought the conversation about how to interact with, you know, interacting with audiences, and how, you know, inciting them to take less passive roles. And I think one of the challenges of immersive theater is that on one hand, you have that it's inherently interactive, right? So people are kind of startled out of that passive setting. But on the other hand, not everyone operates that way. So that can be really off-putting and cause people to shut down. So I've been creating experiences that have these different simultaneous levels, so different people can have a point of access for wherever they are. And I think one of the most successful things in that endeavor was this Rigoletto performance, where I had a network of different things where people could look around and choose a certain installation that resonated with them, that they could come enter. So I would have, you know, for example, there was one installation where the mobster chorus guys took over this table and started playing a poker game and made everyone play with them. You know, nice. And so it was super loud and fun. But, you know, there was also a much quieter installation where Gilda, who had just been abducted and assaulted, was wandering very quietly through the balcony, asking people if anyone witnessed what happened. So it was, you know, there are lots of different experiences and different points of entry for people to engage. And I want to do more work like that. I'm creating a kind of movement composition piece in the future for the Judson in New York that's going to be based on Verdi's Requiem. And I want to circle back to that ritual experience that I landed on with the 4 last songs. And now I'm thinking about it really differently, because now you know, New Yorkers and everyone else have had this experience of extreme isolation. And so community building, the feeling of community is really you know, a dire need right now. And that's, you know, kind of extraordinary about what going into theater is. Like a group of strangers go into this space, and then through the magic of performance, we leave a community, you know, through this experience. And that's really what I want to do with Disparity Requiem next.
Nice.
All right. Man, we need someone here in North Carolina like that.
Exciting.
Yes, indeed. And see, since you're in Philadelphia, you could just head down the road an hour and a half and go see it.
Right, I can.
Me, Mike, and Lorin, we gotta get plane tickets. We're here in the Piedmont Triad. Don't take Greyhound. Don't take Greyhound. Greyhound.
Oh God.
Yeah. So,
Amtrak is a good line up there. It's a
Yeah.
long ride, but it's doable.
it is. So what you got coming up, Lorin?
Well, I'm trying to finish my undergrad first. That's the biggest thing. But I think what I'm realizing is that, because like for me, I come from an ethnicity that just isn't common. I come from the Romani people. Nobody writes plays about us. Nobody does. Nobody writes film for us. Nobody writes anything. So anytime I play anything, I'm either trying to not be an imposter and be respectful of somebody else's culture, or I'm trying to find a way to step into it that's ethical. So I think my big thing is I really need to just get on writing. I need to finish my undergrad. I need to write a bunch of shit. And I need to get some experience directing that stuff so I know how to translate the experiences that not just minorities, but also my group of people come from, so I can start helping other people experience that and understand it. I think it's important to balance that, that sensationalism, that experientialism, where people come in and they have a good time, with that activism, that teaching as well. So for me, I want the theater and the film that I'm a part of to impact people. So I think learning more about how to effectively do that, and I'm still figuring out how to do that. It might be hopefully through talking to the rest of you after this, maybe seeing some shows. If you guys have any advice, I'm trying to get into this stuff more than anything. So I'm just trying to learn as much as I can, and get on it, and start making shit. That's kind of my plan right now.
Lorin, I'll tell you this, man. Lin-Manuel Miranda wrote In the Heights and Hamilton, mostly In the Heights, because there wasn't that many roles on stage for Latinx people. You know what I'm saying? You got outside of West Side Story, really wasn't that many opportunities. So yeah, basically, since you don't see opportunities for Romani people about Romani people, create them. You have to create them. And if I can write and create plays, sheesh. You know what I'm saying? So, Mike, what's next for you?
Well, actually something that, although it's a little late for this iteration for Lorin, but both Greensboro and Winston-Salem have short play festivals where local writers can get their pieces produced, put on stage. And it's well worth looking into. Adrian's got some contacts in the Greensboro area. Like I said, I've been working with the Short Play Festival here and directing a piece that'll go up. It's all done Zoom at this point because that's theater at this point, but it gives a chance for writers to have their pieces looked at, and certainly recommend, take those steps to explore. I have that coming up in the next month or so. I've auditioned for a Shakespeare piece, again, a Zoom piece, and I've been talking with the folks at one of the local theaters about what we can do in the way of Zoom or socially distanced theater while our normal venues are shut down. Ardencie, you mentioned Lysistrata, been toying with the idea of putting it on in an outdoor setting similar to the theaters that it originally would have been done in.
Yeah.
And hoping now that it's COVID and the local theaters have no financial resources anymore, they'll take something that has no royalties attached to it, and try to mount it and put it on. So if I can sell that to the folks, that will be a piece. I had been slated to direct Lend Me a Tenor, which is a farce delving into Jennifer's area of expertise. From a number of years ago at a local theater, we had it cast and had to read through and a couple nights of table work when COVID shut it down. But the theater company says, well, next when we open up, we'll bring you back. And I've told the cast, I'd love to have you back. If you can make it, if you can't, I'll look for someone else. So that's long way out whenever our governor allows us to gather 3 or more together in a room. No, that's a whole different storyline. Never mind. And trying to find, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
But just continue to look for ways to make theater, to connect through theater, to tell stories while we're in a handicapped situation.
I hate you, COVID. Oh, Doc.
Yes.
What you got coming up? Please bring music to my ears.
We are, as I said, my company. We're getting ready to open. Well, we're in COVID, so but I'm still going to use the word open. Premiere our show called All Lives Don't Matter, which is it's a political piece. It's based on. I'm an historian at heart, and so I love politics and I love history, and so I utilize the technique of the living newspaper, which comes out of the WPA in the 1930s, and used it to create this show. And around the time Black Lives Matter started getting 2016, and I was working in an after-school program. We run an after-school program as part of our work as a theater company, teaching in North Philadelphia, kids free theater and arts. And so the kids needed a way to deal with the death of Trayvon Martin and Tamir Rice and what was happening during that time period. And so I started writing pieces for them, and it has grown since. And so we're doing that, and now we're doing it utilizing digital, virtual. We have used locations, been out in the woods, performing parts of it in the woods, in the streets, and then put that on film, and that'll be going up on Thursday as part of the Philadelphia Fringe Festival.
Nice.
And then in November, we are, because I really want to do some Shakespeare right now, because I was in a situation where one of the theater mothers here, one of my sisters in theater, called together a group of all the theater artists, and we were talking about how we can change theater and make theater in Philadelphia very much more inclusive, because it is a very segregated theater community. You have considering the population of the city, and so there was one of the artistic directors of one of the theaters. He made this statement. Well, most of the Black actors are not trained to do classical theater, and of course, my head started spinning around my neck. Like I was in what's that? The Exorcist. I just didn't let anything go. Well, I was spewing, but it wasn't. Yeah. And so I was like, that's real interesting. So I wanted to. I've always been one who likes to prove people wrong. And I love, as I said before, I've loved Shakespeare. I trained with the Royal Shakespeare Company. I love Shakespeare. So what you talking about? So I'm hoping to do a Zoom reading of either, I did an adaptation of Taming of the Shrew, and I've done an adaptation of Much Ado About Nothing. So it'll be one of those two. And that'll be sometime and those will be done on Zoom, and that'll be sometime in November. And then for February, we're doing a show that I wrote, a musical called Ain't Nobody, which is it's a civil rights musical. So I've taken the civil rights movement and turned it into a musical. So
just to let you know, my reaction to that, my reaction just now, it isn't me having a 35-year-old crazy old man moment. It's because prior to this demonic COVID, I was supposed to play Baraccio in the Goodly Frame Theater version of Much Ado About Nothing. Darn it, COVID came along and screwed that up. But at least I was in triad stage reading up. Hey, that happened. So,
Hey.
See, but don't get me wrong. I think COVID, and don't get me. We said no political talk tonight, and I've been doing real good holding back. But you keep mentioning COVID, and so I think for me, COVID has its downside, but it has also had, in a weird way, a plus side. Artistically, it has made me really try to think things outside of the box. And as I have said to people on many occasions, theater has survived many a plague. We go be all right. So, so this is just one more plague. And out of each one, new innovations come. And so I'm excited to see those innovations and how I'm seeing them through Zoom performance and how it's going to translate when we do get back into the actual space. So I'm excited about that. It's making us reinvent ourselves, So
I'm political.
I know, but I was going to start about 45, and that's the. But yeah, but I took it another way. And
well, thank you. We're not going to let the two individuals who are going for the office of the presidency of the United States put a damper on our theater. Because that's showing itself.
And the thing is, I don't think it should put it down. I think it should energize us.
Yeah.
It should energize us. I tell my students all the time, the fool was the only one who could say shit to the king and get away with it and still be able to have their head the next day. And they often look at artists as fools because we do outlandish things. We are willing to put ourselves out there and do foolish things for a laugh or for a cry or for someone to understand something else about the human condition. And so, I think once again, I'm going back to Brecht and this whole idea that theater can have that power to be able to talk. That's why you see playwrights around the world who get put in jail, artists who get put in jail because of the things that they write, because they talk to people like those two are running and let them and hold the mirror up. As Shakespeare says, our job is to hold the mirror up to society, to see the foibles, to see the good, the bad, and all of it of humanity. That is our job. And so, come see All Lives Don't Matter. Mm-hmm.
Lorin,
There's a reason that it has that title. Okay.
Say again.
It's called All Lives Don't Matter.
So real quick, I'm gonna say this real quick. Then I'm going to get y'all's contact information. We're gonna wrap this up. I want to say this real quick. I wasn't going to get spiritual or anything in this particular conversation because not everybody has the same belief I do. I know Mike does, but I don't know about the rest of y'all. But I say this. I hate Nazis and I hate KKK members. When someone says all lives don't matter, when someone says all lives don't matter, those are the first two that come to my mind. Nazis, KKK members.
They say all lives matter. There's a difference. They say all lives matter.
Well, this won't get in that.
Okay.
Like I said, white supremacists, KKK members, and Nazis. Whenever I remember having a talk with a friend, and I said, all lives do matter and stuff. That's why we say Black Lives Matter. But he said, do all lives matter? Because do their lives matter? And I had to sit back and I had to do kind of like a spiritual check on myself. Now, those lives may not matter to us, but they matter to God. They matter big time to God. So is it is it me hating the person, or is it me hating the heinous act that has overcome who they are as people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would say to any white supremacists out there, any Nazi, any KKK member, take that, get rid of that swastika, get rid of that white hood, and your life matters again. I mean, me, you make my stomach turn, but God loves you. So why is there so much hate in your heart? You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I'm kind of like doing. A self check. I don't want to become so overcome with hate where I'm hating people. But best believe you come at me with a noose, or you come at me, best believe I'm from Shelby, North Carolina. I'm ready to scrap.
Mm-hmm.
Does anything I'm saying make any sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean,
I think it's really about being, and this is, you find this a lot, I think, trying to separate the person from their ideology. And sometimes that can be somewhat difficult. You know what I'm saying? And you just have to leave some people alone and let God do what God does best. You know what I'm saying? But as putting this back in the art, I'm going to put in your face my story. And you can't deny my story. And I can honestly say to you that through your actions, through what you do, through what you say, it tells me that even though you may say all lives matter, your actions aren't doing that. They're not proving that to me.
And actions speak louder than words.
Yeah.
To kind of build on what you just said, I don't know how familiar y'all are with like the underground scene, but there's a guy named Brother Ali who I'll send it because we have a group chat on Facebook, so I'll send it to you guys later. But there's a song he has that talks about this a little bit, because the reason people are so fucked up in our society, right, is that systematically that's how things have been set up to benefit a certain few. That there's damage that's done dually by telling one group of people they're better than another, that they have the right to infringe on other people's humanity. I mean, for me, it's like I had a moment the other day where I had to like shut off social media and everything because I just saw these images of all these people in boats and stuff, and their boats were sinking. And there's that one part of me that's like, oh, fuck those people. They believe shitty things. And then there's the part of me that's like, that is a desperate, misguided person who's crying out for help. And they're in danger. They're still a human being. And if our system wasn't built in a way that fucked everybody up, that had led to so many people being disenfranchised, especially Black people, that white people would be better off too. That if we can figure this out, if people are willing to really understand their privilege, understand the way they've been conditioned, and start to try to deprogram that and go into their communities and deprogram that, which is part of the reason I do theater. I think as that happens, I think we'll see people a lot healthier. I think that's why suicides are so high right now. I think that's why people are abusing drugs, abusing alcohol and stuff, because people are hopeless. They don't know how to process the situations they're in. And every group is being told different stuff about how they get to exist in this world we live in. And it's fucking us all up, And I'm not saying that it's okay they believe those things. It's not. And they should be punished, I personally believe, especially if they come and try to hurt people. I think people deserve to defend themselves, but I hope through theater we can slowly start to get some people to understand how misguided they are and maybe start to deprogram some of this bullshit.
I think that's why we all do theater, because something inside of us just wants to make the world a better place. And by showing the world as a better place, that's how we do it, right?
Indeed.
Absolutely.
Now, on the lighter note, how can the world at large, or those who are watching, no, like I said, the world at large, because the world's going to see your incredible opera and experimental theater, your incredible experimental theater, your incredible short play in theater, and you sing some more, Mike, and and Doc, your incredible theater. All of our incredible theater. Oh yeah, I didn't say what I got coming up. November 6th, Zoom, YouTube, Aprenda Español, written and directed by yours truly. Check it out. Now, how can people get in contact with you all? Doc, you first.
You can go to our website. It's Arden, ARDEN Blair BLAIR.com, and you can go there for tickets. You could look at our website and hit us up, or you could go on to Facebook. Our theater company is called Kaleidoscope Cultural Arts Collective, or KCAC, and we have a Facebook page where you can get a link to our show that's coming up. It's $5. We're celebrating our 5th year as a theater company. So tickets are $5 for All Lives Don't Matter. And we start on Thursday.
Where will they be able to find it at? What platform?
We're doing it through Zoom.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Jennifer.
Let's see, you can find me on Instagram, JW Director, my Facebook page, which is Jennifer Williams Director for my professional Facebook page, Director Facebook page. Or you can send me an email through my website, jenniferwilliamsdirector.com, and then the contact page.
All right. Lorin.
I don't have a lot of professional platforms yet. I'm sort of in the process of setting that up right now. But I try to wear my heart on my sleeve. So just go to my Facebook, Lorin Kaplan, Lorin Kaplan on Facebook. I go to UNCG, so you could use my school email, lakaplan@uncg.edu. Those are the 2 easiest and probably fastest ways to contact me.
I forgot your name. That cool dude, that handsome dude, whatever. It's one of those on Instagram.
The Intense Fellow, I think.
The
with
Intense
a 1 for an I, but that is not a professional Instagram. People are welcome to go check it out, but there will be better avenues for that in the future.
And Mike, how can people get in contact with you?
Well, before I give that out, I do want to say, Lorin, you're a much better man than I am, because nobody got hurt in that lake in Texas. That means I can laugh at their butts for the boats having some, and I do.
I still laugh at them too.
But email address is.
Won't he do it? Mm-hmm.
My email address is mburkews@gmail.com, and I'm working right now a lot with the Little Theater of Winston-Salem, and their website is www.ltws.org. So that you can check out the short plays as they're coming up, and anything else that I'm able to work out with them through these COVID restrictions until they get their next season up and running.
Okay, and if you want to holler at me, my email is adq4Price@gmail.com. My Instagram is DionChocolateGuy85. Let's see, my Twitter is AvenueADQ_85. That's right, named after the play Avenue Q.
I'm sorry.
It was the chocolate God part. It was the chocolate God part. That's the part right there. That was the part.
Yo, I'm chocolate. And Psalm 80:26 says, "I say you are gods, you are children of the Most High." I'm just calling it. I am the same way I am. And on Facebook, my name, you can find me by my full government name, Adrian Dion Quarles, ADRIANDIONQUARLES, or you can just look at the screen. Please don't call the CIA on me. Also, let's see, a couple new platforms. In order to hear this episode and other episodes of ADQ's Renaissance in their entirety, the other 65 episodes, that's right, this is episode 66, go to https://anchor.fm/Adrian-Quarles, or on Facebook, facebook.com/ADQ's Renaissance. You'll find, ADQ's Renaissance 85. one whole word. You will find updates. You will see videos of my past stuff and all of that. And yeah, I think you will greatly enjoy yourself. And also, I shouted them out earlier. I'll shout them out again. Also, just remind you all, check out The Insurgents, The Insurgent by my man God King June. Dope hip hop album. Check out Clock on the Wall by my man GP, Mr. GP, featuring that man. Check out the upcoming film Generations by Queen's sister, Tamika Allen. And if you're in Winston-Salem or surrounding areas, Battle of the Sexes by upcoming guest James Lyons. That's Uncle Ezel's Battle of the Sexes. It's at 6 p.m. on 500 Kennard Drive in Winston-Salem. Don't let that $40 price deter you. Now, thank you all very much. Thank you all very much for joining me. This has been ADQ's Renaissance. This has been the Director's Cut. We are, ladies, say we are the voice of the theater geeks.
We are the voice of the theater geeks.
We are the voice of the theater
Theater
geeks.
geeks.
We're the voice of the theater geeks.
We're directors. We don't follow directions very well.
Yeah.
We give directions. We don't follow directions. What are you doing?
We started. Nobody came into this as a director. We all started as actors. But anyway.
in all honesty, the institution I was going to, just as I got there, they canceled their BFA directing program. So I had no choice but to just go into acting. And I was like that, but it was like, okay.
That was where you belong.
And then I said, and I will say it benefited me because to a certain extent, it gave me the lingo I needed in order to be able to speak to actors better. So I appreciate what I learned in that process. So.
And we all can agree that November 6th, we are going to watch Aprende Español. Real quick, I'm going to tell you why we're going to watch it on November 6th. Here's why. Number one, November the 2nd is the Hispanic Day of the Dead. Show love, show love. November 3rd is the American Day of the Dead, aka Election Day. So we're going to spend the 4th and the 5th recuperating. Here come the 6th. What better way to recuperate from either the election of Joe Biden or the re-election of Trump by watching theater and a piece that I've been working on for years. Aprende Español.
Excited to see it.
I hope. Thank you. I hope y'all see it. I hope y'all enjoy it. But y'all have been watching ADQ's Renaissance. These are some of the greatest directors in the entire world. Thank y'all for watching. Everybody have a blessed, blessed, blessed evening. Deuces.